remember the first thing Jordan said when I came up and got to his side was, "I can't breathe."
I heard Jordan screaming, and that was like so vivid to me too. Like I knew Jordan was dying.
We unbuckled his helmet, took it off, and started going head to toe on him. And I get down to his stomach, and I remember seeing the hole in the side of his stomach. And I remember thinking how bad, like how serious this got.
The doctors told us next point of survival is 2 weeks. And if he gets past the 2-week point, then it's excellent for his chances of survival.
Very difficult moment. I didn't want to leave him. And he just said, "Don't let me die in here, Mom."
I did undercover narcotics for 5 years, and I was homicide detective for about 5 or 6 years, and then I promoted, and I was the supervisor of the robbery division, and then I moved up to lieutenant, and I eventually took over the investigations and forensics division. And I was there until the last year, and then I went into the XO position and had a good career.
I was shooting for firefighter. I went through EMT school, and then I went through a fire academy, and I was actively applying for fire jobs until my dad, who's 28-year veteran, said, "You should at least consider it." The police department, he's like, "At least look at it." So I looked at it, looked into the city, and I got really excited.
We met like when I was 21 and he was 20. So we both worked at Hollister. One day I walked in and he was a stock associate, and I was like my second day there. And a couple weeks later, he asked me out. And we went on our third date, like he asked me to be his girlfriend, and then that's been it for like almost 14 years.
You train to be the hero. You train to be the guy who returns fire despite the fact you're wounded and, does the hero stuff. You don't train to be the guy who's just annihilated by gunfire. We got word that there was a deputy down. From that point, our special teams took over. Eventually, that car parks onto the street, so that's when the call came down from the chain of command of just like, "Hey, we want a vehicle assault and we want it here." Plan was to execute a bumping technique. As we did that, though, the van door, which I was attempting to hold open, slammed shut as we contacted the car, causing me to fall directly on my face inside the van, which cost me precious time. I get back on my feet, open the van door, and at that time the suspect opens fire. As I'm jumping out, I'm struck in both forearms. I'm struck through my shoulder. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was struck multiple times in my chest, in my armor. As I jump out, I feel my stomach get hit. I feel that one, and I take one step to my right, and that's when I feel the bullet strike my femur, which caused my femur to shatter, which I felt every second of, and I just collapsed at that point because I had no more structure to keep me on my feet. I felt like I just jumped out, got hit by a car, and I was just in complete shock. And that's when Chris, who was second out of the van, returned fire, eliminating the suspect.
Like I knew I got shot, but my first thought was I had to get to Jordan. Like I had to get to Jordan. So once the threat was eliminated, I just kind of ran or hobbled to Jordan as fast as I could. And I tried to triage the best as I could. So I just took my tourniquet, and the first limb that I saw that was bleeding was his right arm. So I just tried to tourniquet that as fast as I could. And then fortunately, that's when Spencer came on, and that feeling to me was like that sense of relief. That feeling was just like, thank God.
Chris knew that his wound was a wound that was going to be all right, but he looked down at Jordan and saw the amount of blood. Because that needs a tourniquet more than my leg needs a tourniquet, and that's what we trained for.
Nobody panicked. All the faces around me were completely calm, and they started applying tourniquets. Our medic, Spencer Brumbach, came over, started working on my stomach. Somebody came over with the backboard, got the car ready to go. Felt like I was kind of in survival mode at that point. Just breathe, enjoy the oxygen, enjoy the bed.
The way I found out is a person who had worked for me before texted me and said, "Hey, I'm very sorry." And I had no idea what she was talking about. And she said, "There's been a shooting and 2 officers are injured." And she said, "One officer is very seriously injured and the other officer has a leg injury." And I said, "Well, where are they at?" And they said they were at the Loma Linda Hospital.
I'm in front of Loma Linda and couldn't figure out how to get in the parking lot. because I was not seeing clearly. We went around the entire block until I could actually get in the parking lot, and then I noticed the helicopters, all the units. There were so many people.
So I mean, that day I was just cleaning the house. I don't remember going to work that day. I think I was off, and I was just taking care of my errands and doing laundry when the phone rang, and it was his dad. But I saw his name pop up, so I kind of already knew that something must have been off. I let it ring a couple of times just to avoid. I just wasn't sure if I wanted to pick it up, to be honest. I was like, I think it rang like maybe 4 times. And that's when I was like, okay, then I need to pick it up. I pick up the phone, and he's like, something happened. You need to get to like Loma Linda immediately. And I live about 10 minutes down from Loma Linda. Put the phone down and get to the hospital. A nurse is kind of waiting for me there, and they kind of rush me through a crowd of just different police officers, different nurses just through the hallways, and they take me to this room, and that's when as soon as I walk in, it's Jordan's parents and Jordan on a table, and he's completely covered by a sheet. His parents are crying, and I got angry. I mean, I was like crying, but I was kind of mad because he wasn't supposed to work that day. And then I see him, and he's just like, I love you. Like, we're gonna get married, and I'm sorry.
I ended up having 2 surgeries total, but from what I was told, they were both fairly involved, fairly long, lengthy surgeries. The first one was to repair the abdominal wounds, and then the second surgery was to repair my limbs, which I was also told was fairly lengthy and involved. From there, I had a regimented schedule every day where I would do both PT and OT, and you would have physical training 4 times in a day.
I knew he was hurting bad, like he had to have been. But he just said, nope, we're gonna do it again. Nope, we're gonna do it again. It showed me a different side of my son. You know, when someone told me one day he is a warrior, yes, he is. Because to survive what he went through is pretty amazing.
When I saw Jordan walk out of the hospital, it was like long overdue. I mean, he looked terrible. he looked terrible. But just see him up and walking and smiling and knowing that he's going home. And we know Jordan. We know he's going to put in the effort to get back to where he needs to be. It was like a weight was lifted.
Say in the last 6 months is when I've seen him sort of going back to school and everything, when I've seen him like back to normal.
He's a much harder individual now. There's an insight he didn't have before that of the value he brings to the world still.
So life after law enforcement it's humbling. I went and got counseling, and through that is where I really started to kind of discover who I was outside of the job. I went from being obviously a police officer on a SWAT team to being a community college student. And there's a big step down in ego and pride, but I had to kind of take a step back from that and realize that I'm here to learn.
Jordan now is amazing. He was always going to be somebody that was going to help others, and he was going to be productive, and he was going to be there for me and whatever future family that we end up having. So he made that hard choice to kind of move on, and I'm proud of him.
Before, as a police officer, I worked as an emergency medical technician, and this inspired me to go back. You get my bachelor's degree in respiratory therapy, and then I'm going to go pursue a master's degree and become a physician's assistant. My dream school to attend is Loma Linda, because that's the hospital that saved my life. They gave that life back to me.
Watching Jordan's recovery has given us the outlook that the time we have with our friends and our family is finite.
His future is still so bright. We get to be a part of his future, and we get to see him instill all those same personality and those attributes into his kids.
Jordan and I have a better relationship now than we ever have.
I get an opportunity to hopefully see him married someday. That's our wish. To maybe give me little Jordans. God help us all.
I'm excited to have a life with my fiance. I'm excited to go see the world. I haven't seen the world yet.
Jordan 2.0 is happy, and he's motivated, and he's doing a lot.
We're just happy that we still have him.
I have a second chance right now because I took the time to just put on my body armor. Don't skip on it. Don't take that chance. If I had to say one thing to all the people who trained me, to all the people who I've worked with over the years, to the people who made my armor, to the doctors who actually saved me, just from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for everything.